Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the DucksNPucks podcast. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Richard, and we have plenty to talk about for the Ducks. The roster looked like it's set. We have some discussions about head coach Cronin to talk about, the in-net with Gibson and all that kind of stuff. We'll also preview the Pacific Division and kind of talk a little bit about the league. But before we dive into the show, Eddie, what are you drinking?
I don't know, Mike. It feels like I'm Bill Murray in that movie Groundhog Day. It seems like we just talked about this right now. I have deja vu. But no, I'm drinking some Pink Whitney. I've been under the weather, so I'm trying to numb my throat. We were supposed to record on Thursday, but my voice was just shot. So I'm grateful that we waited till today to record because more news came out, which we'll talk about later. But I'm having my Pink Whitney and having some Ultras right here, right now. How about you, Mike?
I had a couple Red Bull vodkas, and now I'm drinking your favorite Mango Cart, and it's just before noon. How about that?
Which I haven't even had. Drinking before noon. Does that make us alcoholics or just really hardcore hockey fans? Who knows?
I would say hardcore hockey fans. It's the weekend. We're good.
Yeah, we'll take that. So what you been up to, Mike? Any plans? Anything going on with you?
Nothing, man. Just been kind of rocking and rolling. Got back from Arizona last week with the better half's birthday, and now just kind of rolling into this. You know, the Ducks finished the preseason, so I'm ready to get the season going.
Nice. I'll be going to Texas next week, so I'm looking forward to that, getting out of California, and I'm going to see my mom next week, too, so it's like a big win-win for me next week.
Nice. It's always good to take a little bit of a break, you know what I'm saying?
Especially from California.
This is true. All right, so I'll just remind you guys we're part of the Old City Sports Network. You can check out all our sponsors in the description box. We're part of their network with Jesse. Proud to be there another year in the books. If you want a discount on some good beef jerky, go to righteousfelon.com and use OCSN as the password. Okay, so some stuff came up this last week. We'll talk about Cronin and some of the craziness that happened. This is kind of interesting. There was an interview with Greg Cronin, and there was an interview with Lyubushkin about Greg Cronin, and it was in Russian. It was on YouTube. It was translated into English on Hockey Writers, and it caused a lot of emotions and reactions and whatnot on there. So take the translation part, a little bit with a grain of salt because it's not 100%, but it seemed pretty accurate. What he talked about on there is how that Cronin was, quote, very tough, and the psychological atmosphere of the team was very difficult. He talked about how the team would do warm-ups before meetings and then go skate, and they kind of raised that as a concern. It wasn't changed at first, but then it was changed later. He also talked about him being a good coach and a good person, but that sometimes the team would come in and talk for a few minutes, maybe 30, 40 minutes before practice. That was kind of annoying. I thought it was interesting. Cronin did go on Duck Stream with Alexis Downey. I'll save that for a second. But, I think about this stuff, and I did talk about this on a couple of the Hockey Podcast Network shows. And I look at Cronin as Kurt Russell in Miracle on Ice, yelling again, kind of a thing. But, before we go into what Cronin said, what was kind of your initial reaction, Eddie? Did you kind of think it was sour grapes, or what did you think with Lyubushkin in his comments?
I think he's just being a bitch and crying about things that he shouldn't have. Like, you're a professional athlete, professional hockey player, which keyword professionalism should be always first and foremost. And him going over there crying to the media because a coach was tough on him and they didn't baby him or cradle him. It's like, I think you guys won 27 games that season. You shouldn't be cradled or babied for anything. Like, you should have been held to like 3-a-days. You skate in the morning, afternoon, and night after games. The way the product on the ice has been terrible, and Ducks fans, including ourselves, are tired of it. Like, all the lies we had with Bob Murray, all the promises, it's like, no, it's time to start stepping up and and doing better on the ice. Cronin's job's not there to wipe someone's poopy pants and baby them, give them kisses when they're tired or scared. No, his job is to give the Ducks organization a great product on the ice, make their fans want to go to games, and have that winning culture again. So if you're not part of it and you're crying about how he's talking to you or how he's running things when you only won 27 games and only 4 assists that you've had in 55 games with the Ducks, no, I'm glad we got rid of him. He went to Toronto. He's had failures too over there. As a professional athlete, your whole concern right now shouldn't be Cronin and the Ducks and how tough and scary he was, big bad Cronin. Your mentality right now and job should be helping the Dallas Stars win, which you signed a contract with. So now I know why the Maple Leafs didn't want to bring him back. They just, or whatever he said, they didn't negotiate the contract well enough. Like, that attitude is not a winning mentality. And someone like that is like pouring a little bit of motor oil in fresh water. It's always going to turn bad, and people aren't going to kind of build off that.
Yeah, and we had Andrew Knoll weighed in on this too. He covers the Ducks and the Kings as well, and he had talked about that the younger players bought into this and that the older players were the ones that kind of had more of an issue, which kind of makes sense. I mean, you and I have both played a lot of sports. I've played almost every sport under the sun, soccer, basketball, football, baseball, everything but hockey in a team's. Yeah, he had in a team sport, and we've had different coaches. So, if you've been in the league for a while, you've been under different coaches, you come in under a new coach, you're going to have some maybe reservations or you're going to think differently, as opposed to a young guy that's maybe only, been in the league with one coach. Or for us, a lot of these guys have had Dallas Aikens as the other coach. So I kind of agree with what Andrew's saying on there. And if you look at the Ducks Stream interview with Alexis Downey, I liked how Cronin was honest on there. He said that, he tried to bulldog his way through a lot of stuff in the beginning of the season. He did not have the patience with some of the players and whatnot, trying to get things going. And he admitted some of his faults. And I think being a leader or a head coach, you have to have part of that. You can't, it's not always my way or the highway type of thing. I think there is part of that, when you're more of a demanding type coach and you want to get guys going your way, but you've got to be able to adapt and adjust. And he talked about that in the first season, and this is the second season. So I know a lot of people are like, oh man, he's not the right coach. The morale in the locker room was terrible and da-da-da. Well, I mean, after that initial winning streak last season and then the big losing streak, the Ducks did okay in the beginning and then tailed off. And it was just bad all around. So I think that added to it as well. So I don't look at him and have a lot of negative thoughts about it. I think he did a decent job in the first year. Of course, we wanted the record to be better than what it was. We lost a lot of 1-goal games and whatnot. And I'm really looking forward to the season. We'll break down the roster. It's pretty much been finalized here in a little bit. Actually, just before the show was recorded, which is a shocker because usually it's after we record that we find out information. But I'm happy with that, and he goes into the players too a little bit. So I'm good with him being the coach this next season. And now if the Ducks do horrible and only win 20 games, okay, we'll talk about that in the season. But right now, I'm very optimistic going into the season, Eddie.
Yeah, same here. I follow the Avalanche too, which a lot of you know. All you new listeners that haven't, I do follow the Avalanche too. I grew up watching Patrick Wall, and he was one of my favorite players as well. Teemu Selanne is my number one favorite player. But Jarrett Bednar, when he got hired and he kind of derailed the team and a record of being the less points in the league. But look how he built them. He built them a different way. They stuck with him. All the players bought into what he was selling, and look how powerhouse they are now. Right now they're kind of mediocre because they lost some players. Some players decide to do blow hookers and alcohol during the playoffs, which was a main considering factor. But I think he did a really great job as a coach. I think Cronin is doing a good job too. You can't just judge someone by giving them a bag of fire and expecting them to put it out with their bare hands without any water or anything. It's just trust the process. This is going to work. These players, and I think the whole thing too, Mike, with the older players, he always say you can't teach new dogs new tricks, because there's sometimes like when I'm like at my job right now, and they tell me like do something different, and I'm like I bark back a little bit like, oh, why? Or this works, but then if you trust the process, it's actually easier in the long run. I think what the Ducks have struggled with, it's going to change, and Cronin being Cronin and handling the responsibilities and keeping every player accountable for their actions is going to help them. Like I always said, adapt or die. If you don't want to be part of this process, then leave. We'll trade you to Buffalo. You'll never make the playoffs in your whole entire life.
Yeah, I mean, and then, you know, on the Duckstream thing with Cronin too, he went into a lot of this. He talked about Zegras, and he said that, hey, he needs work when he doesn't have the puck. He talked about Carlson, how he got bigger and stronger. Another part of this is Radko Gudas being the captain, and a lot of people look at the captain as being some vocal or grandiose guy that you see in the movies or in real life or whatever, and he said that, hey, Gudas' play speaks for himself on the ice, which I think is huge. He also talked about Killorn, Fabry, Dumoulin being mentors with this team, and that this team, there's a lot of players that are, you know, under the age of 26 or under, and the critical age of 23 to 26 for the development. So there's a lot of growth going on with this team, a lot of room for improvement and adjustments. And I like the fact that he admitted, hey, you know what? I tried to work through this stuff. It didn't work out on some things. I'm trying to make adjustments, like you talked about, Eddie, adjust or die. And that's what he's working on. So I'm not, I don't know. I wasn't as critical about those comments that were posted. And another thing, too, just, you know, when you look at those things, like when we post stuff, we try to screenshot the quotes or put a little blurb of a podcast or whatever, and we put the links. Make sure to go read the links, listen to the podcast and everything, because I try to put a little blurb in there of what's important, but I'm not going to repost and steal people's entire articles or podcasts. So I saw people, you know, jump into conclusions and commenting on stuff, and it was obvious that they had not listened to, like, say, Elliot Friedman's 32 podcasts, which he gave an update on Fowler I'll talk about later, or some of these articles, or Duckstream or whatever. Go listen to these things. Go read the articles. See what they say. I put the quotes on there, try to screenshot it. Eddie, same thing, and some of the other people that run our account, to make sure that you guys, hey, this is what was said, but hey, here's the link. Go read it. Get the context of it. There's a lot in that article with Ilya Labrushkin, with the hockey writers. Tons of stuff in there. Some stuff with the Leafs, which we don't really care about, but there's stuff in there with Cronin. Go read it. I screenshotted the parts on Cronin, but there's more in the article. You know, go check it out and see for yourself. But I thought the reaction with Cronin, it wasn't unexpected, but I think it was a little bit blown out of proportion. You know, especially after listening to that interview on Duckstream, and I highly recommend going on there. They have so many great interviews on there covering the Ducks. So I'm really not worried about it. I think the Ducks, I don't think there is a locker room issue. I think the players know what's expected of them. Verbeek has talked about this as well. And I think they'll be fine this season. I think with Labushkin, like Eddie talked about, a little bit of sour grapes. You know, good luck to him in his career. Maybe the translation was a little bit off. I don't know. But I'm really not that worried about it. We bring this up when we talk about it on the show because it's Duck News and that's what we do. But I'm not worried about the coaching staff of the Ducks. That, to me, that's not an issue. I'm more worried about the performance on the ice this season, Eddie.
Yeah, same here. I mean, how much further could we drop off? I mean, we weren't the San Jose Sharks or the Blackhawks. Thank the freak F we weren't the Blackhawks and all their problems that they're having. But I don't know. I think it'll be a better season. We have an established captain that hold people accountable as well. They have the player meetings they can do behind closed doors without the coaches. I don't know. Maybe I'm feeling too optimistic, which is rare for me because I'm more like negative Nancy and like to think of the worst of things. But I think we're gonna have a better season, especially with someone that's leading this team on the ice, and hopefully that can translate to at least a better record. I mean, obviously, like we know, we're not gonna get the first round pick ever. The league will dictate that whoever they seem fit, and it's not going to be the Ducks as a small market team. But at least we can just do something better, the special teams, and overall just have a good time. Like I go to the games and with you, Mike, and hang out, have some great memories, talking to a lot of the fans that listen to us, That feels good when we're walking and people are like, "Oh, you guys are Ducks and Pucks," which they always refer to Mike because he's Mr. Ducks and Pucks. I'm just Ducks and Pucks Jr. But it's really great talking to people, getting them on my Facebook, social media. I'm looking forward to this season. I miss hockey, so it sucks that it's so close, but it seems so far. We have to wait one more week to actually see the Ducks play. But the season officially started the other day when they played in Czech, the Buffalo Sabres and New Jersey Devils. So it was good to see that back. But I'm looking forward to the official start of the season. I'm looking forward to the Ducks playing their first game on Saturday against the Sharks. Please, God, beat the Sharks, and then hopefully I'll be there when they play Utah. And Mike, I don't think the Ducks have lost a season opener since I've moved back here. I can't recall. When I first moved back here, I think it was like 7-8 years ago. I've been to every season opener, home opener, and they always won. So hopefully we get a big win there and start the season on a positive note.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a weird bit of scheduling. Like you said, the Global Series is going on right now, and the Ducks are off for a week. And then they play San Jose on the road. They play Vegas right after that. And then they've got that game against Utah, and I will be there as well. So we'll have to see how that unfolds. But we'll dive into the roster here and some of the news that's going on. Before we do that, I want to remind you guys that this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. If you're having mental health issues or concerns, please, Eddie and I have talked about this a lot of times on the show. And, if you've got concerns, we're always here to help and talk to you. But, if you don't want to talk to somebody in person, you want to do an online thing, you can check out BetterHelp. You can rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. You can visit betterhelp.com/THPN today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/THPN. So, if there's something that you have going on and you want to work through that, they are there for you, and we're happy to have them as a sponsor. And we're also happy to be part of the Hockey Podcast Network. So, like Eddie talked about, the season's coming up. The Ducks are going to be be on the road against the Sharks and whatnot. We finally got the roster, and right before the show, we found out that Dansk has been placed on waivers, so the Ducks are going to go with Dost-Wall and Klang to start the season. We got news that Gibson had an appendix surgery. It's going to be out 3 to 6 months. Pretty crazy. I think that this injury actually started last season. Gibson was not himself at the end of the season when we saw Dost-Wall play in net the last couple weeks. And, the appendix thing is no joke. Sometimes you can have like a stomach issue or a side issue or a back issue and maybe not know what it is. And they finally found out what it was, and they had emergency surgery. So looking at this lineup, that's the first piece of this. The Ducks did cut the roster all the way down to 26, and now with Dansk down, they're going to be down to 25. Looks like Sennecke and Gibson will be on the IR. We had some questions. We had Brian Xbox on Instagram ask if Gibson is going to be traded and where is he going to go. We had Alexis821, is Dost staying? With all this stuff kind of going on, I don't really see anything happening with Gibson now. I kind of think he's untradeable at this point at the start of the season. I'm really excited to see what happens with Dost-Wall in that. I really just... I think he's going to kick ass. I did talk on some of these other podcasts with the Hockey Podcast Network about Gibson and back in the day with Anderson being a 1A and a 1B, and how I thought that was going to be Dost-Wall and Gibson, which it still could be when Gibson comes back. But, Eddie, I'm really looking forward to Dost-Wall. I mean, to me, he's got this opportunity probably for the most of October. I think it's his net to lose.
Yeah, and the whole thing with the 1A, 1B, that works when you're a playoff contending team. Ducks aren't. Like, let's be real. I hope the Ducks do well this season, but they're not going to be a playoff contending team. They're not going to be a Stanley Cup team. There's no reason why we should have held on to Gibson this long. The management failed to do what's right for the team because they're so sold on him. You know what, Mike? Who knows? The Samiolis, maybe one of them committed adultery and Gibson knows about it and holding him at bay. I don't know. But it's like, we could have traded Gibson at his absolute high ceiling. There was talks, too, when Draisaitl rumors were happening, and I mentioned too on a really not previous show, but a long time ago show that could have been a trade the Oilers would have been interested in, thinking that Draisaitl wouldn't have came back to their team. Obviously, that's wrong now. He signed that big deal with them, but there was no reason to hold Gibson hostage or Gibson holding them hostage when he wasn't being part of the future. When is this team going to be a Stanley Cup contender? Not for another few years. And then Gibson's prime is gone, what he has. We have a young goalie right now that he played pretty damn well, all considering last season's atrocities with the Ducks. I think he's ready to step up and be that goaltender. But there's a lot of teams that need goaltending help. Gibson, with his appendix. If Gibson had a better team in front of him, he can thrive and be that elite goalie. Maybe he's not going to get the same return that he would have gotten before, but he's still valuable. Look what's going on with Boston and Jeremy Swayman. Their whole, I guess they're having a little temporary break. That they're offering him a certain amount of dollars. The agent came out and said no, that we never got offered that. Swayman and the GM Cam Neely met face to face at a coffee shop to try to work things out. It didn't work out. There was rumors that he requested a trade, but that got debunked. Who knows if that was true? But if I'm Boston Bruins, right now you can actually get Gibson from the Ducks at a really low return because he's dealing with this appendix injury. He'll be out for a few weeks. Are you going to bring Gibson back? Especially if Dost-Wall is having a really great time and he established that net. Like what are you going to do now? I think the Ducks shot themselves in the beaks, or what were they called? The Ducks' feet, web, or the web feet, whatever they're called. I think the Ducks screwed up big time. They got a huge return when they traded Gibson when they should have. But now we're kind of stuck with it, and now you're going to roll with two potential starting goalies, and then Dost-Wall's contract's almost up. Like, what if he requested a trade? Like, what does he like? He doesn't want to be part of this. Stuck behind Gibson's shadows because the Ducks want him. Look at Nashville, that Arkansas or whatever his name is, that Russian goalie that got traded to the Sharks. He didn't want to go down to the AHL, and they traded him. He wasn't going to report there. He wasn't going to play. Yes, he's got sent down to the AHL right now because of injuries that he was accustomed to or going through. But he'll be back up, and he's going to have that starting role when he wants it. So Ducks got to do something big, and I think the biggest failure the Ducks can do is not trade Gibson this season. Like, let him go. Let him have an opportunity to win. And he's given all he's had to the Ducks. The Ducks aren't going to win anytime soon, so why not get a return from him and let him go out and have the opportunity to win the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, I think the injury is definitely going to kind of put a hamper on that, but I don't think that a trade is out of the possibility. I think maybe once he comes back and he starts playing well, that can happen. And, I think maybe by the deadline something can happen. I mean, the Swayman situation is very, very interesting because there's been a lot of misinformation with that. I guess Spitting Ticklets posted a photo of him at the coffee shop thing, and then they said, well, that photo wasn't legit, and that there was different things going on with that and how much they're offering, and a lot of talking, and then they were saying there was like 64 million reasons why not to sign him. So I'm very curious to see what happens with that. There's rumors flying, as Eddie alluded to, about Gibson and Swayman and the Ducks in Boston. We've seen them trade, before, so that could happen as well. I'm very, very curious to see how this works out, between now and maybe November, when Gibson could be back at the end of October, but it looks like maybe in November. It really depends on that appendix thing. I've known some people that have had that operation, and everybody's different. Everybody has different side effects and whatnot, so it can take a little bit of a while. But I'm looking forward to Dost-Wall being in net and taking over, and I'm excited. I think he's the guy. Towards the end of last year, I wanted him to take over. Eddie and I have hounded on this before about Gibson being traded, in the past, and it didn't happen. And now I think the potential is there. So, yeah, I think that's it. And then the other little bit of this, too, is we talked about Fowler, which I know some people have said, oh, well, the Fowler news has been out there for a while. Elliot Freeman was pretty adamant about Fowler being traded on his latest 32 Thoughts podcast. He said that it's been kind of quiet. but he said don't be surprised if something pops up and then he is traded. So, yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, you're looking at the Ducks lineup and where they're at. The Ducks could afford to trade Fowler right now. They could afford to trade Gibson. They have Dansk back in there. I mean, like we said, he's on waivers. Sennecke is out for right now. But we'll see. The defense, it looks like they're solid too. They've got 8 defensemen on this final roster, including Fowler. So if they trade him, they still have 7. And they can bring up other people as well. So it's going to be interesting. I am excited, though. I think that if they do try to make some of these moves, they're going to have to look at the cap. You look at Fowler and Gibson's situations. Both of them are in the $6 million range. The Ducks are barely above the cap. So they're going to have to figure out something. If they move either one of these, Eddie, they're going to either have to take on a contract, they're going to have to retain salary, they're going to have to do something because the Ducks are barely above the cap floor.
Yeah, but you know what? The Ducks have that great opportunity, though. Like, they can afford to take on money. The cap isn't that large. There's teams that want to add more assets to their team. Toronto, Edmonton. You have the Bruins. You have a lot of teams that need the extra help that are paying some players a significant amount of money, numerous players, where they can't afford to go out there and get something. The Ducks can help them out and then get some draft picks or compensation for it. That'd be great. Like, why not do that? That builds your team. Look at Arizona, or I'm sorry, Utah now. They did the same thing for years, and they have a great young core, and they're like waiting to pop off. Like, that's just, their team is going to be stacked and really sick in a few years. And it sucks that they're not Arizona anymore; they're Utah. So it's like Utah's going to benefit everything that Arizona did, but like something has to give. You can't keep them. Like Fowler, I think after naming Agudas as captain and not naming Fowler captain, I think that really played a toll maybe on him because he was supposed to be that defenseman of the future. He lived with Scott Niedermayer. He was supposed to be the next Scott like Niedermayer, but he never lived up to that potential. He wasn't bad for the Ducks. He did a lot of great things, and he played his heart out for us. But I think the over expectations for him got to him. So we have a lot of young defensive core that can step up, and why waste that spot? We can just get rid of him. Yeah, it's going to cost us. Like, no one's going to take his salary on right now. But like I said, too, with Gibson, give him the opportunity to win somewhere else. Like, he's given a lot to his organization. He's bled orange, quote unquote. But I think it's time to move on. Let's move on. Get our younger players a better opportunity to step up and more ice time. That's how we're going to move past this and forward. I don't think Gibson or Fowler is part of the future. I don't think they're ever going to lift the cup with the Ducks. So let's trade them and see what we can get in return. And what's more satisfying is giving the younger players more opportunity for that ice time that they would have taken up.
Yeah, and you talk about the young players and them getting more ice time and whatnot. And you look at this lineup, we'll dive into it. A lot of young guys on here on this roster, a couple of veteran players, as I talked about, that Cronin looks at to mentor them. But you're looking at this lineup right now, as far as the forwards, you're looking at Terry, McTavish, and Zegras. This is, possible lineup. Gauthier, Carlson, Killorn, Fabry, Strome, and Vetrano. And then the fourth line with Johnston, Lindstrom, McGinn, and Leeson. Then on defense, you've got Fowler, Zellweger, Lacombe, Gudas, Dumoulin, Minty, Vakanainen, and Luneau, who actually made it on there, which is great after his infection that he had last season. Fantastic. And then, as we talked about, you have Dost-Wall and Klang in there. You have a lot of young guys on this team. And a lot of questions. A lot of you guys, are asking about how's this team gonna do. Like we had Liam Hockey 10 on Instagram. Will McTavish hit 60 points this season? I would say yes, as long as he's healthy. Noble Airworks, our good friends that are right down Honda Center. Make sure if you guys go there for any of the games, by the way, say Ducks and Pucks, you get a discount. They ask about who our point leader is going to be through October, and we can kind of dive into that. Also, Stephen Chase asks about Cutter making an impact this season. I mean, there's a lot of stuff with this team. I think there's a lot of potential for these guys all to score 20 goals. Some of these guys scored 20 last year or were close to it. So I'm really looking for this offense to take a step this season, Eddie, especially the top 9 forwards.
Oh, yeah, especially McTavish. I have really good high hopes for McTavish. Cutter has a lot to prove. He's been a lot of hate. Philly, they hate him to death. I don't think he's ever allowed over there. I don't know why, but it's crazy. The whole thing, too, with trading people at their highest ceiling, too, Mike, Vetrano. I don't know. I think we might disagree with this, but I think Vetrano's season last year was a fluke. I don't think he'll ever replicate the stats and numbers he did last season. I think it was just one of those things where at the deadline, which they tried to trade him too, but they should have got rid of him at his highest ceiling. I don't think he's going to ever come close to the numbers that he did. And if he does, Mike, you know what? I'll make it his bet, Mike. If Vetrano proves me wrong, I'll stop drinking for 77 days, his hockey number. I won't touch a sip of alcohol. I'll just sit here and be miserable and lonely and sober. But, yeah, that third line needs work. Fabry, I like him. He's proven with all the injuries he had that they were like supposed to be told that he wasn't going to play hockey again. But he overcame that adversity, and he worked hard at it. I think he'll be a great asset. And he'll be like I said, a great mentor to the young kids. But that third line needs some work. I don't think Vetrano or Strome, he's a good at the face-off circle. He's good in the middle, but I don't think they're part of the future either. I don't know if what you think about that. It's just my whole mentality of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, so you look at the goal breakdown like Eddie's talking about, and Vetrano had, 37 goals last season. I actually agree with you, Eddie. I don't see him getting over 30 this year, and I hope he proves me wrong. I love Frank the Tank. I think he's awesome. You're right. They could have traded him for a whole lot at the deadline last year. They didn't. I don't see him doing that. And if this is the lineup that starts, I mean, this is, going through training camp and preseason, what we saw, he would be with Fabry and Strome. Fabry had 18 goals with Detroit last year. Strome had 11. So I think they could work out. Seems like Strome and Vetrano get along well. I don't know how Fabry will fit into the mix. Obviously, it's a new guy added in there. But I'm with you. I don't see him getting that many. So that's going to put some more pressure on those guys. I really look at the other two lines to produce for the Ducks. You had Terry that had 20 last year. You had McTavish that had 19, even though he was hurt and didn't play the whole season. Zegras only had 6, but he had the contract dispute. He got a late start to the season. He was hurt. He only played 31 games. So I look at those guys that they can all potentially get 20 goals this season. And then I'm really excited about Gauthier and Carlson. Those guys had some serious magic in the preseason. You saw Gauthier on the last shootout goal that he had in the preseason game, which was nice. A nice little deke move, and he scored. Some of the magic with him and Carlson, too, where he got a couple goals during preseason. I'm really thinking that those two guys can do a lot of damage. Killorn is a mentor that Cronin talked about. He had 18 goals last season. He got off to a slow start because he was injured as well. So I'm looking at those guys to really produce and come through with this team, and the goal thing is a big issue. Last year the Ducks had 203 goals. It was only better than San Jose and Chicago. I mean, that's pathetic, right? Only 203 goals. If you can get these top, 9 forwards, and maybe not all of them score 20 goals. I think there's a potential for all of them to do that. But if you can get 5 or 6 of them to score 20 goals, and then you've got Johnston, Lindstrom, McGinn, and Leeson on the fourth line. Leeson had 11 goals last year. I mean, there's no reason why the Ducks should not be able to score more than 203 goals this season. I think the potential is there. Yes, we did not get Marchessault. We did not get Stamkos. Okay, it is what it is. But I think the development on the Terry McTavish Zegras line is awesome. Gauthier and Carlson as well. Eddie and I talk about chemistry all the time. We can talk about analytics. We can talk about all these other stats, but chemistry is huge. And at least for 2 of these lines, what I've seen in preseason, and I don't take the record. And the Ducks were 3-3 in preseason. I don't look at the team record. I look at individual efforts and line efforts when analyzing that. But I think there is some magic there, and I think that the Ducks can score these goals and be competitive and be exciting this season. As Eddie talked about, are they going to be a playoff contending team? No. Maybe they squeak in there and compete somehow for a wild card. But I'm looking for these guys to move the needle offensively. I'm looking for 5 or 6 guys on this team to score 20 goals. That's kind of what I expect this year. Spitting Chicklets was super high in Gauthier. They think he can get 30 goals. Maybe he can. I'll be happy with 20 from him and a lot of these other guys. But that's kind of how I'm looking at it with this team. In order for them to progress this year, we've got to do better offensively. And you saw in that one preseason game too, Verbeek talked about it, where Gauthier had 12 shots on goal, which is another issue that the Ducks have had the last couple seasons, not getting enough shots on goal. So we create those opportunities, provide those screens, get shots on goal. I think good things are going to happen, and I think we're going to have a lot of 20-goal scorers this season, as long as we stay healthy, Eddie.
Yeah, this lineup, it looks like it, especially Cutter. Yeah, it's possible, and hopefully. And the whole question I'll fire off with you, Mike, which wasn't pre-scripted. You see the lineup in front of you. Who do you think will be the most improved player from last season?
Honestly, I think the most improved from last season would be Zegras. He only played 31 games. He only had 6 goals. Cronin's been on his ass about playing better all-around game, especially when he doesn't have the puck. So, to me, I really look at Zegras to improve this year. I think last year was just a crappy year all the way around for multiple reasons. So, I look at him to have that year to do better. I also look at Karlsson too. Leo was under that Leo plan with the games and all that, and that shit's out the window this year. And they're not going to do that with Gauthier either. So I look at Karlsson too to take a huge step. Those are kind of the 2 guys in terms of forwards that I look to, Eddie.
Yeah, well, the whole thing with Leo Karlsson, what Cronin was saying when he was on the Spit Jellies podcast. The reason why he did that, because he played a lot of international hockey too, and he was just tired. And there was times where he came back to the locker room after workouts, and he just was exhausted. So now understanding that, at first I didn't like it, but now I get that. He played too much. You're a coach, and you recognize one of your players is trying to give it his all, but he can't because he's too tired. So I guess I agree with that plan that they did. But my high hopes and my player that I think will improve better than last season was Killer. I think Killorn has a lot to prove. He's a winner. He was a winner in Tampa Bay. I don't think he likes to lose. I think he'll have this season he'll come out with a chip on his shoulder. He started off injured and started off slow, so I can see him really building off that. Another one too is Lundestrom. I don't think he should be on the 4th line. He has a lot of potential. He has a lot of skill. I think he's a solid 3rd-line center, but it's just we're too clogged up right now on the centers, and unless we trade Strome, he's going to be stuck there, and I think he's better off fit having more of a role with the team than the 4th line.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, with the Ducks at center, it's interesting because you have McTavish, Karlsson, Strome, Lundestrom, Zegras can play center too. The center part looks a little log jammed. So, but yeah, I do like Lundestrom. He's not going to provide offense every night, but he can, and he's very, very solid 2-way game and good defensively. So, maybe that 4th line gets put out there in some of those situations where they need to shut down certain people here and there. Because I think that's been part of the issue with the Ducks. I think a lot of these guys are offensive-minded, but their defensive game has not always been there. So that's something to look forward to as well with the forwards. In terms of the defense, no real surprises with the Ducks. I mean, yes, Fowler's still there. You have Zellweger that made it. Minty. You got, of course, Gudas the captain, Lacombe, Dumoulin, Vakanainen. I think Luno was great. He did great in the preseason. Came back from his injury and is stellar. So, I've talked about this before on some of those other podcasts on the Hockey Podcast Network, but I look for on defense the Ducks to play Fowler less. I think Zellweger and Minty need to get more looks, especially on the power play, and that's what they need to do. I think with Fowler, that they kind of leaned on him way too much last season. He had a rough go of it. I talked to him recently about that, and he was talking about how he didn't have as great of a year last year, but I mean, they really freaking rode him like a donkey, man. I mean, they played him so much. So I think the Ducks need to get away from that. It sounds like he may still be traded according to Freeman. At some point, Verbeek's very quiet, so I think the Ducks could do that. I think they have the depth to do that. And I look for the defense to take a jump here. I look for Gudas and Dumoulin to really mentor these guys and get the blue line more up to speed. That was kind of an interesting thing that Cronin had talked about with Gudas, that he leads by his play out in the ice. He's very emotional on the ice, but more quiet in the locker room, which is kind of interesting, I guess, for maybe some people. I thought it was, but that's what I look for on the blue line, and we really need to improve the special teams. I mean, we did so good with the power play and the penalty kill at the beginning of the season last year, and then it really tapered off. We need to work on that, and that's something else Cronin talked about, is that, Eddie and I have mentioned this before, we get upset about the calls. The Ducks have been, I don't know if they are the most penalized team in the last decade, but they're certainly up there. And he said, this is the goal with these guys. We've got to focus on, okay, we're going to get calls against us. We can't argue with the refs and, pull a Temu or a Getzlaff and going at the refs all the time and get more penalties. We saw that all the time. But we have to draw penalties ourselves. We've got to play smarter. We've got to be better with the puck and draw penalties against the other team. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that, too, on this blue line. Play smart. Get crisp passes. Get those breakouts going. Get those great shots from the point. Get in there and do that. And I think that's going to be another key to this team is trying, you may not be able to get the calls. We've seen it. We've talked ad nauseum about it. But if you can draw those penalties and get some more power play opportunities, I really want to see what the Ducks are going to do, because on the power play, it looks like Terry, McTavish, Zegras, Gauthier, and Carlson are going to be your guys. 4 or 5 of those guys are probably going to be on the first unit there, and then you're going to have Minty or Zellweger firing it off on the blue line. I'm very excited. I think they can improve the power play, and if we do that, we get the fourth line chipping in with some goals too, and some of these other guys in the top 9 getting 20 goals a season, I think the Ducks are going to be very, very exciting this season. They, playoff team, no, like Eddie talked about, but competitive and fun to watch, and I think that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, well, I'm the opposite, Mike. I want that. If it's not going to win and they're not going to be competitive, I want them to hit the shit out of everyone. I don't care if they get a penalty. I don't care if the refs are have their feelings hurt. They have the D on now. The D's on their shoulder, but hey, put the D in those players' asses. Like, I don't know. My bad. I apologize about that comment, but I want the Ducks to go back to where they were when they had Pronger and when they won the Stanley Cup. They were a physical force, and that team was hell to play against. They were just hitting everybody in the playoffs. So when you saw Pronger just elbow the hell out of someone, I'm not saying do that. I don't want people to get injured. But let them know, you come to Anaheim, it's not going to be a free-for-all. It's going to be a fair game. I mean, California hockey is going down. The Sharks aren't anything. The Ducks haven't been shit. The Kings are really downfall. But, no, you come back to this rink and you make them scared to play you. There's teams where I played in my beer league that I'm like, oh, I got to play this team because I know how physical and hard they are. But you know what? I want the Ducks to have that mentality. You can't win unless you knock a few heads over. Now, I'm not saying play hockey the wrong way. Keep doing it the right way. Don't take some head shots and don't intentionally injure someone. But no, you make your presence known. The roster we have right now, I think our defensive core with Gudas and Dumoulin, I think they're going to make their presence known. They're both hitters. Gudas isn't back down from anything. He'll throw his body around and he'll make you pay, but I think that's what we need. Get these teams to be a little off their game, take off their time and space, which is really important in hockey. So if you can provide that physical presence and remove that time and space, you have more opportunity with the puck and create more chances. So that's what I want.
No, I do agree with you. I think the physical part of it is a big part of it, and I think that's what we're looking for on the blue line. That's what, with Gudas being that emotional guy and the guy that's going to go out there and kick ass and take names, and I look for Vakanainen to do that as well. So, that is part of it too, definitely, for sure. And you want to be competitive. You want to be feared. Verbeek talks about that for sure. You want to be tough to play on the ice, and I felt like the Ducks weren't like that last year. Yeah, we had a lot of 1-goal games, but we'd get behind, and then it was like, okay, whatever, we're done. We're not the comeback kids. So I agree with you. I think that is part of it as well. So we'll dive into the Pacific Division a little bit more. I know we talked about it in the last show, but this one will kind of go into more depth of what we think is going to happen, and also talk about the league a little bit, and then finish up with some other stuff. But I do want to talk about DraftKings, which is another sponsor that we have. I'm super happy to have them as part of the Hockey Podcast Network. The quest for the Stanley Cup starts now, and the puck's dropping on the 24-25 season. Get in all the action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. You can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code THPN. That's the code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. And then I have a little notice here. Obviously, I will play about gambling.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
I know it's a mouthful, Eddie. I hope you enjoyed it again.
Oh, you know what? Kansas, like, it reminds me of being stationed at Fort Riley, but you know what? Gambling, you know what? Doing it responsibly, gambling is cool. I'm not a big gambler. Like, I'm the kind of person that would just go to Vegas and just bet, like, red and black, or I'll just put a straight bet on a team. I know a few people that do that with bookies, but I'm not going to be part of that game. So yeah, Mike, if you want to take a gamble, who do you think is going to win the President's Trophy this season?
Oh, geez, man. We're starting this off hot. So we'll break down the Pacific too, because we've got we've got plenty to talk about. But
and we'll rapid fire each division. But right now, if you want to gamble, let's gamble. Let's throw it out there, and who's going to win? Yeah,
that's a tough one. You know, man, I almost think Edmonton's going to be up there again. I don't know if you guys saw those videos recently of McDavid, how upset he was when they lost some of the games and the cup and whatnot. But I look at Edmonton being up there in the mix, especially in the Pacific Division. I think that they're ones that, you know, can be up there and do it again. That's the one I look for in the Pacific. You look in the East. I don't know. The East is a little bit tougher, I think. A little bit maybe more competitive. Florida, maybe you get them back up there in the mix again. Obviously, they won the Cup. So there may be other teams, but I almost kind of see those two teams being up in there in the mix again. What do you think, Eddie?
I have a feeling on Dallas. Dallas has a solid roster all around. There's no weak spots in their roster. If that Robo kid, which I have him on one of my fantasy teams, and we'll talk about fantasy for our podcast later. But I think Dallas will really surprise people and really take the whole President's Trophy, not just in the Western Conference, but the whole thing. You go to the East. I think. I agree with you with Florida. I think Florida has a good chance of doing that again. And they have a solid roster. They have solid goaltending. They have Tkachuk. Tkachuk's an asshole to play against. He'll hit the crap out of you, but he'll put some points on the board and be a really elite superstar player. So those are my guesses. And then, you know what, Mike? We were talking about the season. New Jersey Devils are right now the front runners for the President's Trophy. They won both their games in check against Buffalo, and they have 4 points, and they lead the whole league right now in the President's Trophy standing.
Yeah, and if you didn't see it too, they were making a joke about Buffalo with the 0-2 logo, and they said that they were 0-2 in the season. There's a post out there where they modified the logo at the arena. I was like, oh my god, dude. So yeah, you're right. New Jersey's in the front running now because of this global series thing. But Yeah, I think that Edmonton will be up in the mix again. You're right, Dallas could be up there. Florida. I still look at Boston and Tampa Bay to be in the mix as well. Carolina too. So I mean, there's a lot of good teams. A lot of stuff that can go on. I still think that those guys will still be up in the mix, and I think we kind of break down the Pacific Division and what we're looking at, and some things have kind of changed recently. I actually think the Ducks have a better chance now in the Pacific. We talked about Edmonton. Henrique is still there. Boo. Perry came back another season. Boo. I'd rather them have come to the Ducks or someone else, but they're in there. They got the Skinner and Arbison contracts kind of figured out for a short season, so I still see Edmonton up there, as we talked about. Vancouver has DeBrusk and former Duck Dayton Heinen in the mix. Didn't really add too much. Vegas has been kind of a weird team. They lost a lot of people, as we talked about. Marshall Show went to Nashville. The whole Logan Thompson thing was very weird when he was going to sign signatures and then they announced the trade before he was gone. That was horrible. They did add Olofsson and Holtz and Akiri Schmid, goalie. So they did make some additions, but Vegas just somehow always seems to be in the mix. So I look at those guys. Seattle's kind of interesting. They got Montour and Chandler Stevenson, also from Vegas, so they added those. I kind of look at those guys to be up at the top. And then LA, Calgary, and San Jose, I kind of see them towards the bottom. I mean, this is the other part of this, too, is the preseason's been crazy with injuries. We saw Doughty get hurt. He now had surgery. He's out month to month. Celebrini got roughed up. You had Line too get smacked around knee to knee. So, I mean, you see some of these injuries, too, in the preseason. But when you're looking at the Pacific, I don't know. I don't think the Ducks will be top four, but they might make fifth in the division and then be kind of on the outs on the wild card, which I know Eddie and I have talked about that. We don't want to just make the playoffs and get blown out of water. But with the injuries in LA and then some of the things going on, even Calgary, they added some guys, not really a whole lot. They got Mantha on there for a 1-year deal. They traded Markstrom. Looks like they're going to go with Wolf and Net. I mean, I don't know. I think the Ducks will be in the middle of the pack in the Pacific Division. And that's just kind of where I see it. I don't know. What do you think about the Pacific Division or all these preseason games, Eddie, with people getting hurt?
Oh, you know what? I actually liked it. Like, that Wi-Fi guy from Montreal, he's been hitting everything and everyone. He doesn't give a shit if it's preseason or not. I love the passion. I love that hard-hitting thing. And people cry about, like, oh, it's a headshot. No, it's like when you're coming down the ice and your head's down, it's called hockey. Keep your head up. If you don't know that by then and you're a professional athlete playing hockey, then you deserve what you get. I'm sorry if people find that wrong, but it's like he's playing the game how it should be played. And, yeah, the unfortunate with Line and he hit from the guy from Winnipeg. I forgot his name, but he's doing his job, and he's ready and he's poised for the season. So I'm glad he's doing that. With LA, that was unfortunate with Doughty. But I think LA has a lot more issues going on. Like I said, they're just dwindling down. And people don't want to sign in Southern California. Like, players don't want to be here. The taxes are too high. The political atmosphere is not what they want. So I think it's going to really take an overpayment for teams to come, or players to come to LA or Anaheim. Especially Anaheim and LA, they're both kind of small market teams. Vegas, of course, Marcia showed he was pissed off. He made some comments too about Vegas and how the management kind of told him one thing and they went the other way. And the Ducks did try to get him too. And trading Logan Thompson, dude, time and place. If you had to make a trade, I get it. You want to better your team, you want to do something different, but he's signing autographs at the event. And the most respect I have for Logan Thompson is he didn't get up and leave. He stood there signing autographs knowing that he was traded already to a different team. So that's a really great respect for him. Like that shows a lot about his character. I think Vancouver will be one of the top teams in the Pacific. I think they have a great team from last year. DeBrusk and Heinen, they're both great players. Heinen's at bottom, I want to say that top 9 player that can take the faceoffs and really responsible defensively. Calgary they already stated too that they're in sell mode. So just expect more of their pieces to be sold off, and they're like not tank mode, but they're accepting the rebuild. San Jose is probably going to be in the bottom again. I don't see San Jose making any improvements. They really didn't get anything better. Windberg's a good centerman. Toffoli, I'm not sure why he signed there, but he had a lucrative deal. I think he makes like $5.5 or $6 million for the deal he signed. But I mean, if you want to win, you're not going to win in San Jose anytime soon. They're further off than the Ducks. Celebrini, it's unfortunate for him, but it's like, man, it's hockey. That's how things go. I hope he heals up well and has a great return of the season. But yeah, I don't think we're gonna do. I don't think we're gonna be last in the Pacific. I think, like I said, we'll be in the mix, in the bottom of the pack. But
yeah, I think we'll be in the middle. I think the biggest thing, and like I said, I talked about this on some of the other podcasts too, is that you want to play meaningful, competitive games. And I think with this team, looking at the Ducks and what they got, I think that they can. I know we missed out. I know there's some people out there that are super critical of Verbeek. You know, they're not happy that we didn't get this top all-star guy. We knew that Stamkos had come out to California and looked at some teams, but he ended up going to Nashville with Marchessault, and that didn't work out. Montour went on a podcast and talked about the Ducks tried to bring him back, and that didn't work out. So it's unfortunate, but I think for this team, you know, including those close losses we had last season, if this team can develop that chemistry and score, I really look for them to be competitive. Like Eddie said, they're not going to be Stanley Cup material team. No, absolutely not. But some people are high on a lot of these guys here, and last year a lot of injuries played effect, which, you know, don't want to make excuses, but, you know, Eddie and I saw Carlson almost get his knee, you know, broken in two, and thank God it did not happen. Carlson ended up being okay during the season. He was hurt also preseason. Zegras was hurt as well. Killorn started off the season hurt. I mean, you had all this stuff going on with a lot of these guys. You didn't only had a handful of players actually play 82 games last season. So I'm looking for this team to be healthy. They look a lot better right now. You had Sennecke had that foot injury. He played in that preseason game, looked great, had that awesome shootout goal.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
my pants got tighter when I saw that goal.
Crap. Yeah, I mean, he had that great goal. He's going back to the OHL. I don't rule out maybe seeing him later in the season. Maybe they bring him up for the 9 games, right, and don't trigger the whole 10-game thing. You could see him. I mean, he looked fantastic in that one preseason game. I liked what I saw. So, you know, you've got him in the mix. Solberg, we've talked about being the Cronwall 2.0. I mean, if he's out there smashing people like Eddie talked about and bringing him up, that would be great as well. So you've got these guys that are in the mix that are going to do well. I think if they can produce the goals regularly every night, especially in the top 9 forwards, that's what I look for with this team. And then you have guys chiming in on the fourth line. Obviously, Johnston is more of your guy that's going to be knocking people around, kicking some ass and whatnot, like Eddie and I like. But you're going to have to look at Lundestrom on that fourth line playing more defense, maybe getting some of those shorthanded goals or breakaway goals that we've seen him get. Leeson's had 11 goals. But again's chimed in as well. So, but if they can score consistently and get 2 or 3 goals a night, I think the Ducks can win, 35, 40 games, maybe be closer to 500 this season. And that's kind of what my expectation is with this team. Some people think Gauthier can get 30 goals this season. Vetrano, we've talked about, he had 37. I don't know if he even gets 30 this time. As well, I'm looking for Zegras to take a big jump, Carlson to be healthy, take a big jump. So for me, I think this team is going to be more fun to watch. I think you're going to have a fresh goalie with Dost-Wall, and they're starting this season. Whenever Gibson comes back, he'll do what he's going to do. But looking at this team and the stuff that they've got going, I am excited. I'm excited because I looked at these preseason games, and for the most part, other than the one blowout loss they had to LA, which, again, I don't take a lot of stock in preseason games because it's not the whole team. But you saw some great stuff there. You saw Leno making some plays in there. You saw Carlson and Gauthier doing some magic together. I'm just very optimistic with this team. And again, it's not in the final results of the season and where they're going to be a playoff contending team and go for the cup. But I think there's going to be a more fun product on the ice. I'm very happy to finally have Gudas as a captain. Eddie and I have been, bitching about that for the last couple seasons. They finally got that squared away, which I think they needed to do. So I'm good. I'm good with what I'm seeing. I don't want to overstate it. I mean, watch the bomb and only win 20 games, and then I'll eat my words. But I'm excited for the season, and I'm just looking for a big improvement, and I think that's all we can really ask for, Eddie.
Yeah, Mike, if they win only 20 games this season, I swear I will turn into a full-blown alcoholic. Like, I can't, my liver can't take enough of these losing seasons. I have to drink more and more each period from the Ducks. But, yeah, I agree with you. I love the optimistic approach to it, and I agree with you. I think this season's going to be better than it was the last few seasons. We're not going to, be that Stanley Cup playoff contending team, so don't come this season thinking that. I know a lot of Ducks fans get false hope when they win a few games in the middle of the season or the beginning of the season, and then they start talking shit about the Ducks. Like, hey, if you're not here at our worst, then don't be here at our best. You can just kick rocks and go bounce around and leave. Like, we don't need fans like that. So my question to you, Mike, who scores the first goal of this new season from the Ducks when they play San Jose on Saturday?
Going with Cutter, my man.
Oh, Cutter. Okay. I'm going defense.
Who you going?
Minty. I'm on the power play, too.
Oh, shit. You really doubling down on this one. I like it.
Yeah, so what bet should we make if who wins?
Well, what if neither one scores? Then what do we do?
Shit. Nothing. I don't know. That was my whole thing. Let's make a bet we'll just cancel the whole bet then. So
okay. So if Cutter scores, you buy me a beer at a Duck game, which is $20 and change or whatever. If Minty scores, I buy you a beer.
Good deal. I'm shaking my microphone right now to that. Let's do that. Official bet on DucksNPucks.
All right, so a couple other things kind of to finish up the show here. And I know this is... I actually didn't put this in our script. I actually forgot, and I know Eddie's probably going to lose his mind. But what did you think about the Visit Anaheim sponsor patch for the away jersey, Eddie? What did you think about that? Do you think, were you upset? I mean, did you hate it? I know we don't like the W for the home because it does not match at all. But what did you think about the Visit Anaheim patch?
What would you think that if the Ducks put a swastika on their jersey? That's how I feel about ads on jerseys. I think it's bullshit. They don't care about Anaheim. They're just getting paid the money to actually care about Anaheim. And if anyone that lives around Anaheim, minus the Disneyland, the little tourist attractions, Anaheim's a fucking shithole city. I'm sorry, my F-bomb. But these ads are destroying the product and the integrity of everything this game stood for. I think it's stupid, and I told you on previous shows that this is going to happen. And it happened again. And the league, I think Bettman is the biggest piece of shit for this league, how he's been. All he cares about the dollar signs. All he cares about is trying to act like he's part of this woke media. And he doesn't care about any of the stuff that he promotes and does it. He just does it for the popularity clicks. He's a crooked politician. That's what it seems like. And don't think he's not getting a profit off all these ads on the jersey, because he is. I think it's dumb, and what I keep saying, Mike, I will never put one of those ads on my jerseys. Like, you can, I don't know, you could do whatever. Offer me a free jersey, I'll take those off, and I'll compare jerseys to swastikas. Like, I know it's really an extreme thing I should say on this show, but that's how bad I feel about these jerseys, like these ad jerseys. It's just so stupid. You have no, like, you don't have to do that. Like, you guys make enough money where you can spare the $10,000 per ads for the season. Like, if $20,000 for both jerseys is really gonna make a difference in your life, like, come on, do better.
I crack up, man. We almost made it through the show without an F-bomb. We almost made it. No, we always have to have one on here, but...
and you knew I'd be fired up about that. You text me about that, and I was fired up when you texted me, like...
Yeah, and I forgot about it. We were winding down the show, and I was like, oh, we got to talk about this. Well, the other part of this, too, the logo itself, at least it blends in a little bit better with the away jersey, but if you do some research, well... Visit Anaheim is involved in corruption. There's actually an article out there about it, how there were some funds that were mishandled and were used for other things. I'm not going to go into all the details of it. You can Google it yourself and go look it up. So that's another problem with that. Just like we talked about that I forgot what that is, but that was the housing whatever company, and there was issues with them and their customer service and issues. So I love the Ducks. I love the organization. I love the owners. I think they do a great job. But, maybe you want to do a background check on the sponsors that you put on the jerseys, because the two sponsors that you've put on the home and away jerseys don't have the best reputations. And, that it is what it is. I'm never going to put those on mine. I did buy the home jersey because it was that first run press whatever, and I of course posted the photo, and I laughed because some people hit me up and they were like, hey, where's your sponsorship patch? You got it without one? I said, no, I got it with the patch, but I just folded the shoulder over it.
Exactly.
Because this is my thing. If you're going to get a sponsor for your team and there's some kind of poor customer service or corruption connected to them, sorry, I'm not going to sponsor them or promote them. I'll mention on our social media that, hey, these are the people, but I'm not, other than that, I'm not going to go out of my way to promote these people. And yeah, this is probably a knock a little bit on the Ducks organization. I know some of them listen. So, I'm sorry, guys, but I love you guys and the work the Ducks do. But when it comes with the sponsors, you guys need to do some better background checks. You just do. You just do.
I would sponsor, like, OC Animal Care. Like,
yes.
They provide so much service to the dogs. Like, I'll sponsor something that actually I know that's doing good, but the sponsors that you have are just, they're piece of shit organizations, and they just can shell out that money and pay for it. Like I said, if I won a lottery, Mike, I'd buy the sponsorships from the Ducks and then have it blank. Like, that's what I would do. But
yeah, and I'll kind of talk about, I don't know if I mentioned this to you in the past, I almost had our logo sponsored with the Ducks. But because it's DucksNPucks, Anaheim Ducks, I'm so close, and the confusion, I had actually looked into this a little while back. But because the connection would confuse people because they would think DucksNPucks is an official part of the Ducks, they weren't big fans of it or whatever. But I had actually asked some of them, like, hey, what do you guys think? And, it's kind of interesting to see their thoughts. But, yeah, I just don't, I don't know. With these, you'd think you double check them a little bit better. That's the unfortunate thing. I just don't get it. It is what it is. But, the better part of this is I do like what the Gulls are doing, Eddie. The Gulls have started a San Diego Pro Sports Military Alliance, and they're using all these minor league teams in San Diego to offer discounted tickets to the military, which, obviously you're a veteran, and I've got a lot of family members that are veterans, and they're also going to do different kind of events at military bases and whatnot. So that part I'm very happy about. I really like what the Gulls are doing, and I think that they're spot on helping out the military. San Diego is a military town and county and part of the state. So I'm very happy what's going on at the AHL level.
Yeah, I applaud them for that, and I thank them for that. It's not easy to be part of the military, like, no matter what branch you were in. I know the Marines have it 10 times harder. I served with Marines. I went to Lackland Air Force Base to do my canine training. And the biggest and best compliment I ever gotten from one of their Marines was, I should have been a Marine, they said. And he told me, he goes, if you don't understand what that means, this is a good compliment. So I'm glad they're doing that. I think our service members don't get enough appreciation. It's been shadowed over bullshit. But yeah, thank you, Goals, for that. And I really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. And I think you guys should too. And every service member, if you haven't served, you don't know the bullshit that happens and what we go through. And no matter if you're deployed or ever, it's even starting from basic training, it's just like I mean, it's something that's difficult and it changes your whole life. But the best thing about it is you make long-lived friendships. And these people that I've had from the military, I love them, and they're my brothers and my sisters. So I really thank the San Diego Gulls for doing that.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's awesome. If you want more information, too, about that, you can go to www.sdmilitarytix, which is tix.com. So there's info on there, and I love what they're doing down there. I love San Diego. I go down there all the time. I honestly wish I could live down there. I just took a vacation down there on Coronado Island, and I love it. I love San Diego. It's just great. It's a great place to visit. The people are great. The weather's great. It's a fun time down there. So if you ever get a chance to do a road trip, you live in California, I highly recommend going down there. What kind of other thing I wanted to talk about real quick too, as we wind down the show, is Kent French is no longer covering the Ducks and the Angels anymore, Eddie. I found out about this before the announcement, and I waited out of respect for him until the team announced it. But he is going to travel the world with his wife and family, and they're going to do different things, like show different stories, basically throughout the world and whatnot. It's kind of interesting that he's kind of just set that aside, and he's going to do this new thing, and it's going to be called what is it? It's going to be called Frenchtivity Family, and that's their whole thing. Just kind of a shocker. So you're going to see Alexis Downey more at the rink and whatnot. You're still going to have Guy Bear. You're still going to have all the regular guys back as far as on the broadcasts and stuff. John Allers and Hayward and whatnot, but I just thought that was interesting. I mean, good for him. I'm glad that they're doing that. They're doing what they want to do. But when I heard about it, it seemed like it kind of came out of left field. But I mean, if that's what they want to do, then good for them, and I wish them the best of luck.
Yeah, congratulations to him and his family, and I wish them the best of luck too. I think we're in good hands with Alexis Downey. I think she's doing a fantastic job covering the Ducks. Whatever they're paying her, I don't think they're paying her enough. Like she's really cool. I know she was on our show one of the times, and I couldn't make it on that show. So I hope we can get her back so I can talk on the show with her. But congratulations to all of them, and I hope they have safe travels and the best endeavors. To Mike, I had a question too. We had a fan question. Super Bjorn 31. If he saw that, he asked us if we had any Ducks tattoos. Mike, I'll let you answer that first. Do you have any tattoos?
This is funny. I was going to finish with this, so I'm glad you brought it up. So Super Bajorn 31 on Instagram. Thanks for following us, and thanks for everybody that follows us on Instagram. You guys kick serious ass. I have no tattoos at all. I have 0 tattoos. So I've always debated about, like, what would I get? Would I get an Angels tattoo? Would I get a Rams tattoo? Would I get a Ducks tattoo? USC Trojans. You guys know that those are all the teams that I like and follow. I haven't had any. And some of you I've seen on Instagram and other social media platforms. You guys have these fantastic tattoos. Some people have started getting the new logo. Some people have had the old retro logo. I mean, just awesome work. I think, Eddie, if I was to get one, I don't have one, as I said, but if I was to get one, I would get the new logo and I would throw it on my shoulders, what I would think I would do. That's what I would do. I love this logo so much, and the way the Ducks rebranded. I've seen the jerseys in person at the Orange Alliance event. I've had people hit me up. The players, by the way, too, talk to them. They love the jersey. They love the logo. The only 2 modifications I heard was possibly having the black pants on the home jersey, which a lot of you have voiced that. Some of the guys also told me on the numbers on the back, they would have liked it if it had like a stitched border instead of kind of that 3D type look. But overall, everybody loves it. I got those jerseys, the premium jerseys, which I love them. By the way, if you order those jerseys, get a size bigger. They do run a little bit smaller. I feel like the arm length is a little bit shorter, which I kind of didn't like, but the quality overall, I'm fine with it. I know it's Fanatics and a lot of people give them crap, but just if you're going to get those new jerseys, get them a size bigger. But I love it. I love the new logo, and if I was to get a tattoo, I would put that on. Eddie, I know you have, a few tattoos, but I don't remember. Do you have any Ducks tattoos?
Yeah, I have a couple tattoos. I have actually 2 Ducks tattoos. The first one I got when I was in the military, it was, I want to say, my 25th birthday. My ex-wife took me out drinking with all my friends, and I got really inebriated, or I don't remember. And a tattoo artist should not have done this to me, but I got a tattoo of Marvin the Martian standing on a hockey puck, which looks like a tire with the Ducks logo. I woke up the next morning, everyone laughing. They're like, "Oh, like they were joking. Like, were you you were in the hospital?" I'm like, "What the hell?" I ripped off the patch and I saw the tattoo. I'm like, "You guys are assholes, really." And then another one I got was on my forearm. I have a genie coming out of a lamp, wearing a Ducks jersey, with the hockey mask all like skulled out and stuff. It's like kind of hard to explain, but yeah, the last 2. I'm planning to get another one. I'd love that new Ducks logo too. That'd be cool to have. So, I hate sitting there through pain. I hate that. Like, tattoos are awesome, but just the pain to go through them, it's enough.
Yeah, for me, I hate needles. That's my problem. So it's like, I would love to have one, but I'm just like, oh man, I dread needles. So I'll kind of share this with you guys. I go get my physicals every year, which I recommend everybody does, but I go, they do my blood draw and everything. I can't look at it. If I look at it, I get lightheaded when they draw out the needle.
Same
so,
here.
I mean, if you want to call me a pussy, that's fine. I guess I am, but I can't look at it. I have to look away. So that's my problem. I think tattoos are freaking awesome. I love them, but I have this stupid ass fear of needles. So unfortunately, I don't know if I'll ever get one. Maybe if I'm drunk, like Eddie said, and they do it. Like, I don't know. Maybe we go to Vegas and watch them when they play the Knights or something. I don't know.
I'll spike your drink and just get you a tattoo.
Right? Some Red Bull vodkas galore. I don't know, but yeah. So I mean, with that, we'll kind of wind up the show. Eddie and I are kind of back on a regular schedule. Like I said, we'll be doing some other shows on the Hockey Podcast Network. We're still part of the Old City Sports Network as well. Check out their shows on there. Check out tpnhockey.com. We still got great gear on there. We got some new hats. We got DucksNPucks hats in purple as well on there. Check that out. Go on our patreon.com/DucksNPucks. We give away game tickets to members on there, and we post stuff on there usually before we post it on regular social media, so check that out as well. And that's really it. Excited, looking forward to the season, and let's go Ducks.